Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing all right. Thanks for joining us for this spring update. Let me start by congratulating Dr. President Rudd on his announcement of his stepping away. 8 wonderful years here at the university. Grateful for him and everything he's done for us, his leadership, his commitment to excellence, not only at the university, but in our city as well. So certainly a gentleman that I've got wonderful, great respect for everything he's done, and certainly will miss him. He's not gone today, but, we know it's coming down the road. But that news being brought upon us today, I just wanted to thank him for everything that he's done for the university and myself. Also to Tom Bone, congrats to him on the Arkansas State news, a gentleman that I had the privilege of working with, who I think very highly of. I wish him nothing but the best at his new spot, except for on season openers for a few years to come. So other than that, look, we're excited about spring ball. It's Sunday. It feels like forever since we've been last on the field. I know our team's excited. Our players are excited. You'll be able to get 15 practices in 5 weeks. It's going to be great, finishing it off with the Friday night stripes, April 16th. So, look, bright days ahead. We're excited. Last year we left for spring break and it was an extended spring break and we didn't have spring practices. So it's a great time to figure out spots, competition. Very, very few positions can we sit here and say, this guy's the starter at that spot, or this is what we're doing here or there. So I think that's kind of important to get out there and go compete, right? We're not always sitting there game planning. The defense isn't game planning versus the offense. We're going out there and getting really good at our base fundamentals and what we want to accomplish. And another note, I know some people have asked about the media availability at spring practice. We're still going through some of the details with the university, with the athletic department, of what we'll have that look like. As you guys know, I'm all about y'all being part of this, and the attention that you guys can give us in a bright spot has always been wonderful for us. So we're grateful, especially for our local media, for everything you guys do with that. So we're still trying to figure that out. So thank you for bearing with us as we move forward in that. With all that being said, I'd like to open up with any questions.
Christian, first question.
Coach, there's been a lot of talk about the transfers that you got. The vast majority of them were highly ranked coming out of high school and came from, high-level Division I programs. What are the realistic expectations for some of those guys during spring practice?
Sure. I think for a lot of those guys that are here now is getting them to learn the systems, right? The players that have come, even the guys that played, even if they played sparingly last year, they understand the system. They understand how we practice. They understand why we do things the way we do, the details, the ins and outs. Now, that doesn't mean that every freshman that was on our roster last year knows the playbook in and out. So it gives them a chance to come out and see things live speed, right? We've been able to meet, we've been able to talk through things, but it's different than reading a playbook on paper and an iPad and then going out there and doing it full speed. So the expectations of them to go out and compete. Will some of these transfers possibly be starters? Certainly, absolutely, right? If they come in and start at certain positions, that means we improved our roster at that position. And some of them may come in and not play a single down for us next year, and that's okay as well. It's like we talk about all the time, and we're going to use this way too much to any of our interests, but the term roster management, and that's part of it, is saying, okay, where do we feel like we need to, add value positions? And I think that's what we did, and I think we're going to expect a lot of these guys, whether it's a transfer quarterback or transfer offensive lineman, to come in and compete and at the highest level, and hopefully ultimately make our roster better.
As a follow-up to that, with Grant Gunnell, you just mentioned you haven't been able to see these guys on the field, so you haven't seen him play against a live defense. But what have you seen from him from both a mental and leadership perspective so far?
Yeah, I've not seen Grant Gunnell throw a live ball other than off of film at the University of Arizona and high school film. So, excited to get out there and watch him sling the ball. But, off the field, what I've seen is he's a highly intelligent young man that loves the game. He's got a hunger and a yearning, kind of like Brady White, as far as wanting to know everything about the playbook, to wanting to push himself. He's doing well academically. He's a big boy. I'll say that. He's when you guys get a chance to actually see your eyes on him on person, he doesn't look like a lot of the quarterbacks. He's not as big as Paxton Lynch, but he's big, and he's excited. limited leadership opportunities for him out there. Hopefully those will step up. But I think Grant's just one of those, like I've told you guys, I feel like we got 4 quarterbacks come in and compete for the starting job. And I know he's going full steam ahead.
Terry?
How you doing, Coach?
Good, Terry. How are you?
Life is good, man. Hey, with so many new people in, what are your goals as a team for the first couple of weeks, just integrating all these new players into your system, into everyone's role?
Yeah, Terry, the number one thing, and we've been trying to instill more, now more than ever, is our culture, right? The way we do things, how we practice, the right habits, where to park, make sure the academics. So that's all part of it. Man, do I want to go out there and be great on 3rd and 4 to 6 and blitz pressures? Absolutely. But for the newcomers, they need to understand this is the way we do things. This is the standards and how we do it. And this is what it takes to be a Memphis football player and a student athlete here. And so that is just as important as anything we do. But then at the same point, is once they feel like they're getting caught up on the playbook on the field, Terry, is being able to play fast. And they're going to make mistakes. Every newcomer is going to go out there. Guess what? We got some 5th-year, 6th-year seniors that are going to go out there and make mistakes. That's okay. But everything has to be a full speed decision, the way you're going about it. And really, I think the players are, and everybody's just excited to get back out there and go out there and have fun doing so.
Evan?
Ryan, good seeing you again, first of all.
Appreciate it, man. Good to see you, man.
Likewise. So 2 things for me. One, you mentioned, I think on the radio last month, that you look for intelligence and accuracy as defining traits in a quarterback you want. So I'm curious kind of what if you could expand more on that and what you're looking for. It kind of sounds like not looking for a Brady clone, but like a similar type mentality. And second, for me, even though this is your first spring practice, there is continuity. You have both of your coordinators back. You have veterans on this team. Does that kind of help with the transition of spring where it's not so much implementation, but just kind of refining a little bit?
Yeah, Evan, let me start with your second question first and then parlay that into the first one. I do think it helps. I think just, without sounding sly, I think it's great just to have spring football, right? Last year that was taken away from us. So I'm sitting here so darn excited to have 15 practices and let those guys get out there and be able to get meetings, all those things that we didn't have. And so I do. The continuity, right? Having both Kevin Johns and Mike McIntyre back are great. As you guys are well aware, Drew Savoda came from a very similar special team system to what we've run in the past. So I think that will help. And like I've told you guys, I feel like we got depth at a lot of positions. Is this maybe our most talented team? Not sure yet. That's to be determined, but I feel like we've got some good depth at certain positions. So that continuity, I don't feel like we're going out there and I'm going to have to show, okay, here's where we have to line up for stretch. Okay, here's where we do this. I think there's going to be a lot of that stuff. And, having so many of those veterans come back, saying this is the way we practice, this is the way we do things, Evan, I certainly think it bodes well for us, especially continue to establish things the way we want to get them done. And then, you talked about with the quarterback position. Yeah, do I want a Brady clone? Look, if you told me I could sign up for one for the rest of my career here, I'd probably go and sign that box. But yeah, I think, accuracy, and it goes back to it, in evaluating quarterbacks for the NFL. If they're not accurate, guess what? It's very, very hard trait to fix. And very rarely do you see a guy like, man, I want that inaccurate quarterback, but man, he can run and he's smart. No, you're always going to take the accuracy first, regardless of what are the other intangibles, right? Are they intelligent? Can they run? Can they have a combination of those? Are they bigger, right? Are they taller and see over the pocket? Or he's a guy that would be good in movement throws, or, hey, this guy's a guy that we can do some more of our zone reads. So I think the biggest, you look at what are my ones that I really can't come off of. And, the further you come off of accuracy, well, man, they better be really athletic and really strong arm, right? The further I come off of intelligence, well, they better be really, really accurate and be able to do. So those things, I think you got to push, and you get too far off the spectrum, especially on accuracy or intelligence, then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. So I kind of dwell everything around those two, and no different in recruiting. And we're, every day we're going to go out there and grade our quarterbacks and let the best man win.
Steven?
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Good, Steven. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about the quarterback competition, but I remember back during the season, you also said you wanted to see a competition at running back. So just how excited are you for that specific competition, and are you expecting any new names to kind of maybe contend, or is it just going to be maybe those 4 guys from last season?
Absolutely, Stephen. I think you're exactly right. That's a good memory because I remember after the Navy game, we were sitting there and you said, man, Ryan, you started a walk on at running back. I said, look, we truly are running back by committee. And is that necessarily a great thing? I don't know. The one thing is I do feel like we've got entire room that's capable, right? And then we got guys like JP Martin that are coming in, Alvin Martin, who we signed. So look, it's going to be wide open competition there. Right now, we don't have a starting running back. And I'm okay if we go into a season and say, hey, we can rely heavily on these 3 or 4 guys to carry the rock and do so effectively. But reality, they're going to have to show it this spring, and they're going to have to show it, not only in August, but throughout the season. We'd like to be able to run the ball more effectively than we did last year. And like I said, I'm not sitting there saying that's on the running back. Certainly, I've made no bones about it, right? The offensive line has to improve their play, wide receivers blocking, tight ends blocking, and even play calling and play structure of things. But, Stephen, if we had our druthers, I'd like to narrow it down and say, okay, here are our 4 backs that we're going to do it. But right now, I'm not going to say we have no running backs. We've got plenty. In fact, we've got a lot of guys in our running back and room, and I think they all understand the expectations in there, right? We've had a long lineage of great running backs, and we got to step it up a notch.
All right, just a quick follow-up. Obviously, there are a lot of talented newcomers, transfers, very talented freshmen from your recruiting class, but who are maybe some guys that maybe didn't play as much last year that you're excited to see this spring?
Yeah, just going back to that running back room, I think, Brandon Thomas is a young guy we've got high hopes for, whether it's this year or next or whenever. He's a guy that I think we can go and play. But we got to see there's a lot of guys that we didn't have the opportunity to get a full 12 of things. And if it really, you look back, it almost goes back to that previous signing class. And I think, we've got 3 offensive linemen that we didn't get a chance to really see a whole lot of play, and I think 3 of those guys are going to get thrown in the mix. We got linebackers. We just got a young core group of guys, Stephen, I think, and I can't sit here and say this one guy is going to be able to throw in, right? I'm excited to see what does Devontae Dobbs do? What does Julian Burnett do? What does Grant Gunnell do? I'm excited to see all those guys. I really am. But guess what? I'm also excited to see Greg Rubin, right? Who went to high school 2 miles down the street, who graduated high school early, who's out here competing. And, I truly, I can't wait till really, it's probably our second scrimmage, after about 8 practices where I can sit down with you guys and say, hey, look, this guy's making some plays, this guy's in it. And that will be a lot of fun. I don't think it's fair for me, Stephen, just off of workouts, but no, we get some good. But I truly, like you guys can sense it in my voice, I'm really excited about our group. And I think we got a great group of vets and guys that return. But man, these newcomers, right? These freshmen, the signing class, I mean, it's like opening Christmas presents, and excited to see what each one of them can do.
Clayton?
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Just looking ahead to next week, it's not every day that you have, a conference rival player on your pro day roster. But can you tell me a little bit how Cameron Kinley came about to be on there, and then also just the positive impact he has both as a Memphian and as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, first off, let's talk about the type of young man he is. I think anytime that you're a Navy student class president speaks volumes about the type of character you are. I mean, kudos to them. We already have so much respect for all the cadets and everything they do, not only during their time in schooling, but then what they're going to do to serve our country. So not only myself as the head coach, but our university has extreme respect for the Naval Academy and our military services. So with that being said, he's a guy that did it the right way. You talk about, just being up for the William B. Campbell Trophy Award, right? Being a semifinalist for that. I mean, gosh darn, we already know in our own with Brady White what type of young man that takes. So, and then him being a Memphian, I mean, it's just awesome. So you combine all those things. The Naval Academy right now was not going to be able to offer a pro day for COVID reasons and various reasons, which completely understand. And, they said he was looking for a home to come do it. I said, crown for travel or not, let's get this young man here. I've got so much respect for him. He's a young man when his days are done serving our country and, his football playing days are over. He seems like a guy I want to be able to sit down with and maybe, see what we can do in this community, right? For the city of Memphis. And I've, truly, I haven't had many conversations other than a few really DMs and just telling them we're excited about getting them here and having those conversations. But I got a lot of respect for him. I hope he gets the opportunity to make it, but it started a long time ago for everything that he's been able to do, really more so off the field. And he's a fantastic football player as well.
Ryan?
Hey, Coach. With this offseason and the roster management that you had to deal with, just how difficult was it? And do you think this is going to be the new normal going forward?
Yeah, Brian, first off, I hope you're feeling better. I know that all of us, not only in our football community, but, in the sports world as well, we're all thinking about you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And we know it's an everyday battle, but I just want to let you know that we're all thinking about you. I see a bunch of guys nodding their heads. I don't know if you can see them, but, we're continuing to our program thinking about you, and we wish you a healthy and well recovery. And it's good to just hear your voice. You are going to have to change that background because now I'm smiling seeing that.
I wanted to see you smile, so that's why I put it there.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yeah, no, it made me smile. But look, Brian, we're thinking about you, and stay strong. We look forward to seeing your face soon in your own home. But with all that being said, you're right. I do think, guys, I think we're going to have this conversation at the end of spring ball. And, and I know good and well, Evan's going to ask me, well, hey, Ryan, you lost these 2 kids to the transfer portal. What are you doing wrong? I'm going to say, look, it's part of it. Right. And then, we'll probably be talking about guys we may add. And that's just the nature. I think there's things that are going to occur until the NCAA comes out and says, hey, here's the set date of how these things are. It's going to be a constant influx of things. And if they're going to allow a young man to opt out or transfer in the middle of the season, I'm just telling you guys right now, and you guys are going to look back on this conversation and say, yeah, he's kind of right. Unless the NCAA comes out and puts dates on it, there's going to be people that are going to play their first, couple games, 1 or 2 games, and the kid's going to enter the transfer portal, right? Because he's not happy with playing time after that first or second game, or opt out if they're allowed to still. No one ever said these young men can't still opt out. There hadn't been a timetable set on that either. So Brian, I do think it's the new norm. And does that, I'll answer the follow-up questions coming with it. Does that change my coaching style? Not really. I still think, I believe wholeheartedly in pouring into these guys, holding them accountable, right? This is what you say you want to do. You want to get a 3.2 GPA. If you're late for study hall, there needs to be some type of repercussion. There needs to be some type of a thing that accountability factor to that, showing up on time, doing what you say you want to do. And that doesn't mean that, you go out there and yell and scream. You still coach these guys, you pour into these young men so they have success on and off the field. And you just hope that, the majority of your roster sticks, the ones you want to. And that's the nature of this whole thing. So I do think it's going to be a constant influx, which means the culture has to be so strong that as there's turnover in management, that we're not missing the beat, right? You always hear about the Patriot way, right? This is the way it's always occurred. And the people that come in just know, hey, this is the buy-in, this is the system. And you hope you keep your core players. You hope you keep the young men that, and as much of your staff together that have that full understanding year in, year out, that there's going to be a change. And you just hope it's not dramatic and mass where it takes quite a while to recover.
We'll take 2 more, starting with Christian.
Coach, you've talked about the quarterback competition and the running back competition, but I think there's a position group that always flies under the radar, and that's offensive line. I know you're excited about the competition in that room. The 3 redshirt freshmen you mentioned, Braxton Alford, Jonah Gamble, Mitchell Gildahouse, the incoming freshmen and Royce White and McCallan Pounder, some of the guys that you have returning that played last year, like Dylan Parham, Isaac Ellis, Evan Fields. With all these guys and all these names, another guy in Devontae Dobbs coming in, do you think this is the most competitive group and the most competition you'll see in that offensive line room since you've been at Memphis?
I truly do, and I don't just say that because I recruited a lot of those guys. I think it takes a while to build an offensive line room. And, my first year, think about this, the only signee we had the day I got, that first signing class I had actually gotten here was a kid named Dustin Woodard. So we signed one guy, right? So imagine if that guy had redshirted, then those guys would have been on that roster this past year, but that didn't happen, or maybe even granted that extra year. So I think you're finally getting the group of guys that, obviously with transfers and all those things and losing people, but that's one of those rooms that you talk to teams all over the country. Nobody's sitting there saying, man, we got the best offensive line in the country. It just doesn't, that's not the nature of it anywhere in college or the NFL. And so Christian, I feel like we got competition in there. I think we're going to see a lot of different moving pieces, right? We may move Dylan Parham from right tackle back over to left guard, maybe to left tackle, maybe to right guard, maybe to center. Do I want to constantly play musical chairs in that room? Heck no. But I think we've got guys that are capable of moving all over until we find our best 5 or best 8, whatever that looks like. We may not even have that answer. As you guys know, sometimes it takes, games during the season of guys playing together and figure out what's the best spot for them. But yeah, Christian, I do, to long-winded answer to your question, I feel like we do have a lot of good competition in there. And I think the guys know that. And I think sometimes competition brings out the best in everybody.
Terry, last question.
Hey, Coach, I know the protocols you had in fall may be different than you have right now. What are the different protocols you're doing now that you weren't allowed to do in the fall? And when will you know about any solid changes about recruiting going forward, in-person visits? Have they give you some target dates about when some protocols will come down where you can go back to past time normal?
Yeah, so I'll touch on the kind of a generality of the whole deal. So we're still doing COVID protocols. In fact, we tested the entire program, everybody from people that work in our study hall to coaches to equipment managers to every player in our program got COVID tested, the full PCR test this morning. We'll continue to monitor that, continue to make sure that masks are being worn in meeting rooms. We're spacing out, I hold staff meetings down in our team meeting room. So we're spacing out to the best of our ability, make sure we're, doing deep cleaning. That's the one thing is we're taking it very seriously around here still with the COVID. And then with recruiting, Terry, April 15th is what they've told us is going to be another big voting day. Right now, we can't have a high school student athlete have physical contact with them on a campus until June 1st. And that means we can't go on a campus and they can't come on and see our facilities. Now, with that being said, what's that going to look like come June 1? Does that mean that we'll be able to have our old mega camp with 1,800 kids here on June 1? I doubt it. That would be great because good and well we'll try to do it with kids running around with masks and separated and maybe a 14-hour affair. But no, the reality of it is we'll find out a lot more come April 15th, what that looks like, right? Are they going to go to official visits only? Are they going to go to, is it going to be a dead period again because maybe another state's not able to open, right? And is that fair? Hey, Tennessee's able to have all these kids come visit. The state is, but, in the state of California can't. So I think a lot of those things are still in flux and they're trying to figure out. I'm just like you guys. I mean, y'all find out the news sometimes before I do on some of that NCAA stuff and what they're trying to do. We're going to continue to Zoom. Just looking ahead, I'm sure some of you guys will ask, well, what's the recruiting landscape going to look like different from next year? Reality of it is we're going to be probably a little bit more patient this year in recruiting than we were. And look, I love our class, and obviously things worked out right. Like we talked about before, the highest rated one on paper in school history. But we're also not sure what our numbers will look like, right? So if we signed a Devontae Dobbs, right, does that take away from my 25 initial scholarships for next year, right? And then so it's great you get all these guys, but if you continue to do poll, are you, Rob and Peter pay Paul? Now am I going to have less kids to sign in the 22 class? And I think we're seeing it all throughout the country. Some of these high school guys are sitting there, right? We already saw it with this past year. A lot of guys couldn't find homes. And I think as of this morning, and again, don't quote me on this, but I know at least for a fact there's over 1,500 kids in this transfer portal. So Terry, where does that affect recruiting? How does that look? We'll continue to find more and more as rules come into place and the protocols for not only COVID, right? With are we getting tested 3 times a week? Are we able to go on the road? All these things are a lot of unknowns, but I do feel like we're heading in the right direction with everything.
All right, before we sign off, Coach, we've had some people asking what day is the first day of practice. Do you mind clarifying that?
Yeah, so the very first practice will be March 14th. It's this Sunday. And I know a lot of you guys, and like I mentioned at the beginning of this deal, we'll try to do something for media availability, at least whether it's, somewhere in spring ball. I can't promise you it's going to be this Sunday. There's some things to work out. Like I said, with on campus, it's not as easy as me just saying, this is what I want done. We're not there yet. And so there's some things we got to discuss and figure out. As you guys know, like I said, we'll try to get you guys as much access as we can. The spring game is April 16th. That'll be our Friday night Stripes game. And then because we've had these things, we don't have our normal spring break. We had these wellness breaks. And so it's not like, hey, it's just going to be every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. with these wellness breaks, you're going to see some days where we're starting off on a Sunday because we have to get our 15 practices within a 5-week period. So we had to be creative with our structure of our practice. And I know Chuck will get some of that information out to you as soon as we continue to move things around. We've even had one time tried to move things around with our wellness breaks, but since those are school mandated, we try to be fair to the student athletes as well.